what I wanted to ask you about was something that came up in a conversation that I had today with a friend.
Hmm.
And she's read one of your books,
Hmm.
and she's read Rupert, and she's kind of interested in this stuff, and we were sort of talking about it. And we sort of suddenly realized that there's not really any discussion about destiny or about karma.
Hmm.
And I know that, when one is looking at when one is looking at things from a Buddhist perspective,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure about Hindu,
Hmm.
but from a Buddhist perspective, obviously karma is just like a really important thing, which I have never really quite understood.
Hmm.
I was just like really curious to hear what you think about it, and
Hmm.
whether you have a sense, I mean, within this kind of this resting in awareness
Hmm.
and sort of watching our lives, flow in and out,
Hmm.
and our experiences flowing in and out, and whatever. There's an element of kind of, I guess, of transience and unreality there. And I guess, but I guess, is there such a is there karma within that? Because karma suggests something much more substantive, and I just don't know where that fits within the sort of, the kind of the difference between an
It's
awareness
it's
and
it,
a,
it's
and a sort of
I-
experiential thing.
okay. I would say it's not karma within that. Karma is that. Car, okay. The word karma means action. Let's begin at the beginning here, and also let's untangle this word destiny. That's a that's all brings in a whole bunch of baggage from another direction, which very frequently people will conflate with karma, and but right away that brings in these kind of implications that it's some flying fickle finger of fate, that, that had some kind of mysterious power, and that's not. To my understanding, what it is that opens the door to all kinds of sort of fairy tale stuff. Um, so the word karma means activity. It comes from the root, the Sanskrit root kri, which means to do. So it means doing. Period. Period. Doing. There's being and there's doing. Okay? Being has the quality, being, we could say, is another word for awareness, for I. Doing is everything else. Being is the ocean. Doing is all the waves, all the activity, all the activity. Now, all that activity happens, we could say, lawfully. Cause and effect. This thing happens, this wave sloshes against this rock, and then the result is we can trace the physics of it. It then that wave breaks in such a way, and there's this force and this momentum from this direction, and then it's going to affect this wave, and that's going to affect that wave, and then there's these other things. Well, this current was coming in from here, and the pull of the moon and the pull of the sun, and yada yada yada. It's all lawful. There's nothing mysterious. There's nothing random involved. There is, to my understanding, there is nothing random. What we call random, or for that matter, what we call mysterious or destiny or whatever, is simply when the physics are too subtle and complicated for us to know all the dynamics and calculate them. there's a quote where Einstein, and I think this was Einstein taking issue with quantum mechanics or something, which he saw as having some element of randomness to it. I'm not sure about that, the exact context, but the famous quote Einstein is saying says, "God does not play dice with the universe," right? Meaning that stuff can't happen randomly. Now, of course, he was just using the dice as a metaphor, but if we look at it, we see that what we call the random activity of throwing dice is not random at all. If we can know the exact starting point of the dice in the palm of your hand, and then every factor influencing them, the amount of natural moisture and oils on the palm of your hand, then the direction and the velocity with which you throw them through the air, and the barometric pressure and the humidity in the room, and then the angle at which they hit the table, and what's the coefficient of drag of the material on the table. If we can know all of that, we can tell exactly how the dice are going to land. To whatever degree anything appears mysterious, it's simply a measure of the incompleteness of our perception of all the factors. Okay? So, when people say, "Oh, well, I can't help such and such, it's my karma," I mean, that shows a misunderstanding, I think, of the concept. It's my karma. When you say it's my karma, that literally means it's my doing. It's my doing. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. It's pretty simple. Now, again, even things that we've sown, seeds, karmic seeds that we've sown in the past, maybe in the very distant past, maybe stuff we did we can't remember. Maybe, depending on how big our lens is, maybe stuff we did in a previous birth, which we can talk about if you want. I have no problem with previous birth, but it's still you. It's still stuff you did. It's still your. I think of it sometimes as you throw that every action you do, it's like throwing the pebble onto the surface of the lake. The ripples go out from that point where you threw the pebble. They affect every single square inch of the surface of the lake. I mean, maybe very faintly in places, but they affect everything. And eventually the ripples bounce off the shores of the lake and come back. The effect may be very, very faint, but comes back, and it comes back to the initial point where you threw the pebble. So we could think of every action that I do. I pick up my cup, I take a sip of water. That sends ripples of influence, of cause and effect. Very, very subtle, but sends them throughout the entire universe, bounces off the edges, so to speak, of the universe, and they come back to me. Now, it makes sense to me that if the actions you do have a quality of kindness and harmony and purity and light and humor and relaxation, that's going to be the quality of influence that goes out and comes back to you. If you're doing things that have the quality of selfishness, cruelty, violence, whatever, that it's going to put that kind of influence throughout the universe and coming back to you. As the saying goes, he who shits in the road will meet flies upon his return. You may not remember that you shat in the road, but the flies will be there to remind you. Is this helpful at all?
Yeah, it's very new to me. That's
Uh,
really interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah.
But it's all physics. It's all physics. But again, it can be very subtle. A lot of this can happen on levels that we don't see. But it just seems to me it has to be that way. It just makes sense. I don't see what else would make sense. But someone, my old teacher Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who really was one of the most instrumental people in bringing meditation to the West, starting in the mid '60s. And he actually had a degree in physics, and he loved physics, he loved science, and he really emphasized that the key was going to be bring freeing people's perception of meditation away from being something that was mysterious or mystical or whatever, and putting it all in terms of science. And he, you know, trained a whole bunch of people, including me, to be teachers, and a bunch of us, we were hippie dropouts, and he made us all cut our hair and go back and finish our college degrees, and some people, he would encourage people to study this, study that, and a couple, at least a few people, he encouraged, okay, you go back, get your PhD in physiology, and you and you know do the research that's going to show the scientific realities, the solidity, the in a sense the mechanical, non-mystical nature of meditation. And they did that, and it really helped create the very different atmosphere that we have now. So one time Maharishi, who just was always emphasizing science, 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 and he started talking about something, and I don't remember what it was, but it was something that just sounded really out there, really woo-woo mystical, something out there to a bunch of people in the audience. And someone said, Maharishi, but you always say that it's all science. How can this, that it's all physics? How can this thing be? And Maharishi said, this is physics on my level. you know so I think the idea is that as our awareness becomes more expansive and nuanced and sensitive and open, we can pick up some of these subtleties, some of the factors of how the dice roll. We may not be able to articulate, tell what the numbers are, this amount of humidity, and so on and so forth. But we get more of a, I've certainly found this to be my experience, just more of a kind of overall big picture intuitive sense of what's going on and how things work, and just kind of, how they say an entertainer, like when a comedian works in a nightclub, they say, read the room, right? So, and it's not that you're going, oh, this person, that this, it's too much, but you get an overall sense. So more and more, I find that it's kind of living here in the world, living here in the universe. I just feel I'm better able to read the room.
So yeah,
Oh,
it's interesting.
to read the room, and then to just more and more gracefully and intuitively adjust my performance, adjust my behavior to harmonize and to with what's going on in the room, to maximize my effectiveness. That's why I enjoy teaching. I enjoy doing this so much these days, because I don't, I used to have to think about it a lot. It used to, and now it's like, it's like playing jazz. It just comes out. It's really fun.
So in a sense, that, yeah, it's funny because I guess in my mind's eye, I kind of picture awareness as being empty. But in a
Right.
sense, what you're saying is that awareness is actually full of like really subtle stuff. The laws of cause and effect, the laws of physics, these kind of things that you only know about them through awareness, I guess, right?
We
It's
only know about we only know about anything through
anything
awareness.
through awareness.
And
Yeah.
but yes, no, you've so much got your finger on it here. Awareness by nature is completely empty. It's the empty mirror, and it's also completely full of all the stuff that reflects in the mirror. Only in this case, okay, let's shift the metaphor. It's the awareness is the ocean. The ocean is vast, formless, shapeless, empty of any activity. It's always resting in its bed, but it's also all the waves. It's also all the waves. To our limited intellects, that appears to be a paradox. But as the other old saying goes, to the eye of God there are no paradoxes. Right? There can't be contradiction within reality. So it's not either or, it's both and. And this is very beautifully expressed in the opening of the Ishopanishad. The Upanishads are the scriptures where the whole understanding of non-duality, the whole Advaita understanding is first laid out thousands of years ago in the Upanishads, and one of them, the Ishopanishad, and you'll see it. It looks like ISO Upanishad. There's a verse at the opening of it that goes, this is full, that is full, right? And the idea is, okay, and there's more of this coming in a moment, but this and that is like the ocean and the waves, right? Then the word for full in Sanskrit is purna, beautiful word, purna, full. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishta something. Oh, I choked on the last syllable. So it's this is full, that is full. This fullness, that is the fullness of the relative of the waves, is taken from, emerges from that fullness, the fullness of the ocean. This fullness, having been taken from that fullness, only fullness remains. Right? The absolute, the infinite, it's as if the infinite gives birth to the finite. Awareness gives birth, non-phenomenal awareness being gives birth to all the phenomena of doing, of karma, and remains unchanged. It does not lose any of its own fullness in giving rise to that fullness.
Thanks,
So,
Dean. That was great.
you bet, you bet. So it's just really fun to know we're just continuing a conversation that was going on way back at the time of that the Ishopanishad was first expressed. That I find very thrilling. That just this conversation is just kind of echoing down the hallways. This conversation about that which is timeless, echoing down the hallways of time, and we're just the next people to continue the conversation. And there's people before us and people after us, and there will be people way after we're gone who are going to be hearing this thing for the first time and going, "Oh, thank you, that was great." There's just something really lovely about that, I think.